Good afternoon, and welcome to another LCV Climate Insider Briefing. The program will begin shortly. This webinar will be recorded.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Tiernan Sittenfeld, LCV's Senior Vice President for Government Affairs. I'm thrilled to join hundreds of LCV members from across the country for this virtual conversation about clean energy deployment and climate action. We're so honored to be joined by Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm, who is leading the department's work to take the United States to 100% clean energy by 2035 and net zero carbon emissions by 2050. As I'm sure you all know, it has been quite a week when it comes to the climate crisis. And of course, that comes not a moment too soon, given the record-breaking and absolutely devastating wildfires, heat, storms, and flooding of this summer alone. On the heels of the latest IPCC, or International Panel on Climate Change, Code Red for Humanity report that came out on Monday, the Senate passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which includes initial investments in clean energy technology research and development, in electric vehicle charging stations, in clean water, and more. Then overnight, actually around 4 a.m., the Senate passed the budget resolution, which is a critical step forward in delivering transformational investments in climate, environmental, and racial justice and jobs. So this is truly our moment, and we are counting on working with every single one of you in the coming days and weeks to get the job done. So at this absolutely critical make or break moment for climate action, we could not be more excited to be joined by Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm, who is really, as I said, leading the department's work to get to 100% clean energy. Prior to serving as Secretary of Energy, she was the first woman elected governor of Michigan and served 2 terms from 2003 to 2011. During that time, she worked closely with our state partner, Michigan LCV, to reduce pollution and accelerate clean energy, including establishing the state's first renewable energy and energy efficiency standards, investing in battery storage, and promoting environmental justice. As Secretary, she and her incredible staff are tireless and tremendous forces for climate action and clean energy jobs. I really like hearing her say that her hair is on fire for them. She might say that today, I don't know. But I know that we are all so excited from her and our panel of distinguished guests right now. Secretary Granholm, thank you so much.
Tiernan, thank you so much. And hello, everybody. It is a total pleasure to be here for a virtual discussion about the clean energy future that the president is leading us to. I do want to thank LCV for pulling this all together and for being such a tremendous outside advocate, pusher, agitator, holding our feet to the fire so that our hair can be on fire. Bottom line is we really appreciate the partnership and what you are doing. And I know, you referred to the IPCC latest report telling us that the crisis is already here. We know that we're seeing these impacts in the heat waves and the droughts and the wildfires. I mean, the fact that Siberia is on fire should tell us enough, and that Siberia's fire is larger than all of the other fires put together. It's just ridiculous. So, we are running out of time, but the important thing is, this report says that yes, some of the changes, some of the impacts are irreversible, but we can stop and change direction ourselves, not just to avoid disaster, but honestly, to reach this incredible opportunity. And when I say that, I mean, there is going to be a $23 trillion market for this clean energy and carbon reducing technologies in the globe. Every country is looking to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, some more than others, but the bottom line is everybody's looking for that. And so President Biden sees this opportunity of a $23 trillion market and says, you know what? America has got to get in the game. We've got to corner some of that market, because you better believe our economic competitors are out there trying to corner that market. And so the president wants us to foster new businesses in clean energy. He wants us to create good paying jobs in clean energy. He wants communities all over the country powered by clean energy. So, obviously the families can lower their energy bills and have cleaner air and better health. And that's what really today's conversation is all about. We're going to talk about the benefits that clean energy is already generating for Americans across the nation, and what this administration can do to support the folks who are already involved in this space, and how we can spread the benefits of clean energy in a way that builds a more equitable future. And I'm so thrilled that the group that LCV has pulled together for this conversation are people who are deploying clean energy already to better their communities and to make it more affordable and accessible, and and they're experiencing the job creation that it can provide as well firsthand. So joining me today is Alyssa Quintyne, who is a community organizer with the Alaska Center, and Gilbert Campbell, who is the co-founder of Volt Energy, and Frank Hawk, who is the vice president and chief operating officer for the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. So Alyssa and Gilbert and Frank, thank you so much for being here with me, with all of us. Super excited to hear about the great work that you're doing and to share really how this administration's Build Back Better agenda can help to push forward all of the great work that you're doing on the ground. So let's just dive right in. So let me go to Alyssa first, because you are from Alaska. I want you to know I'm coming to Alaska next week, so maybe I'll see you there. Alaska has such a unique relationship really with energy and with natural resources. Renewables can play such an important role to provide more reliable and affordable and healthier energy. And you are doing just that. And I want you to share a bit about your organization in Alaska, organizing in Alaska, really to deploy solar and lower energy costs. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, for sure. For context, the Solarize program is really a community-led initiative that really strives to bring neighbors, businesses, friends together to purchase solar at bulk, to essentially gain a group discount. And we facilitate all the different pieces that go into that. There's many different, financial, installer, education pieces that can be really difficult and challenging when you're trying to install solar alone. And so doing this collectively is sort of marrying the community and organizations and other volunteers and other community folks that, can help that process. Working with local financial institutions to create solarized loans, so people who can take out loans have that ability, working on the green addendum, so people who are selling their homes can, also benefit by getting that money back if they move before their systems are paid off. So it's really just trying to bring all of those elements together and really striving to make it, not just an affordable process, but an equitable process, and giving people the empowerment to, create something in their communities together.
Well, how long? So you're in Fairbanks, right? And how long have you been doing this? And how much penetration have you been able to make over the course of time?
Yeah, specifically in Fairbanks, we are in our second year. We officially kicked off in 2020. And in Anchorage, it started in 2018. So I've been sort of in the game, Solarize game, for my second year, and it has exceeded my expectations every year. I think to this point, we here in the interior, our first year, we had 3 communities that were solarizing, and now we're up to 5. So we're expecting that trend to continue.
That's great. Well, hopefully some of the incentives that will be passed in the reconciliation bill in the second step will really help you. And I'm wondering, so what further can the administration do to ensure that communities, especially communities who've been left out of the decision-making processes, what can we do to make sure that they have a seat at the table?
Mm-hmm. I think that the things that we can do, I think for one example, the Environmental Justice Advisory Council, and having strong Indigenous women leadership on that council is a good step. I think the racial equity plan is a good step. And I think the other piece to add, into that is not just making sure that communities that have been left out have a seat at the table, but really evaluating what their role is when they sit down. Folks of the, global majority who have been already doing this work in our communities for a really long time and leading and pushing that way, have to go through a lot in order to have those spaces of authority. So, when they sit down, do they have that power to make those decisions? Or are they really there to make the room look good? Do we still have the support, the mentorship, the resources, the blessings of our communities to be able to do the work that that will bring us out of these crises? And so really evaluating that and ensuring that that happens, at that level with the administration, I think is crucial. It's one thing to be able to sit down. It's another thing to work with the people at the table.
Yeah, active consultation, active partnership. That's so important. And I'm excited to visit next week, and it'd be fun to stop by and see what you guys are all about. So thanks so much for this. Let me jump over to Gilbert Campbell of North Carolina. I know, Gilbert, that the work that you're doing to make clean energy more inclusive is exactly what the Biden-Harris administration is looking to accelerate. We need, as we were just discussing, everybody to be part of the journey to this cleaner and healthier and more resilient future. And I would love to hear about the ways that Volt Energy has positively impacted the communities that you've been working with. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure, and actually we're neighbors. We're in your backyard. We're based in Washington, D.C.
All right.
We started our company in North Carolina, so I love North Carolina.
All right.
So I'll take a step back and just say, why is it important to work in the community? And you guys hit on this earlier, you and Alyssa, but when we look at communities that have been left behind as it relates to like bad environmental policy, particularly African-American communities that at one point lived within 30 miles of a coal power plant, as that played out where more African-American kids have asthma. When you look at where the highways, have been historically, are through African-American neighborhoods. And as we know, the transportation sector is the, highest emitter of carbon. And so what we've done specifically, I'll just give you 2 examples of how our company is trying to kind of reverse this dynamic. We had an idea in 2011 of doing a solar project at a house of worship, just knowing that when you're looking at communities, houses of worship a lot of times are the pillar of the community for young and old. So we did this project. It's the smallest project we've ever done at Florida Avenue Baptist Church here in Washington, D.C. And that small project had the biggest impact of any project we've ever done. And I'll explain why. So once we did the solar project, we wanted to have like a ribbon cutting ceremony just to get some more exposure and visibility to us, since it was the first African-American church to have solar, and was fortunate enough to meet Lisa Jackson, who was the EPA administrator at the time, and told her about the event. And she said, I'd love to come. And she ended up becoming the keynote speaker at that event. And it went global. National Geographic did a special on that project. But really what it did was it showed the art of the possible, where if you build in certain communities, it has a great impact. Now, the specific impact that it had to the church, they're saving a lot on their utility bills. They're reducing their carbon footprint. But the other cool thing is, we're in COVID now, but pre-COVID, we went through and trained a lot of like the youth in the church how to give a tour of the solar project. So if you were to go to Florida Avenue Baptist Church, once we get past this COVID phase, they would, some age ranging from like ages 10, they could tell you like how solar comes in DC and inverter switches to AC. So that was amazing to see. We also helped the church create a green ministry where we worked with really a lot of the seniors in the church to learn how to read their utility bills, which can be very difficult to read, and really understand how to reduce their energy load, which helps them save money, but also connect them with programs with our local utility and other things that they could do. So that's one example. The other thing, to order to be the change you want to see in the world, I think it's important to have a seat at the table. And one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about is making sure the industry that I truly care about is the clean energy industry looks more like America. And, there's room for improvement as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I've joined several national boards, and I'll just give an example of a few. So I'm on the executive committee of SEIA, the Solar Energy Industries Association, and I'm on the Diversity and Equity Inclusion Task Force, really to bring a diverse lens, but also a unique perspective of how, as an organization, we can impact communities across the country. I'm also on the board of the American Associations of Blacks in Energy, or an organization that's been around for the 70s, is doing amazing work. And lastly, the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance, which is heavily comprised of some of the largest corporations in the world, where we're looking at, partnerships where we can collectively pool our resources, to really help communities as we make the shift to, a carbon neutral economy.
Okay, so many questions I have, but let me hone in. First of all, I love the idea of doing a whole program around houses of worship and solar on the roof, because you can, you get people excited who go to those, and you can see the, you can see the spiritual element of it as well, which is very cool. And with respect to what you were just talking about, which is increasing diversity in the clean energy realm. So we at the Department of Energy, we're really eager to build this more inclusive STEM workforce, especially for our national labs, right? Because we have 17 national labs, and we want to build a pipeline that looks like America as well, and sort of demystify science for young people who, may not see themselves in those kind of roles. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what we should be doing to support your work, but the work of diversifying our national labs and our workforce.
Yeah, so I say one thing, and there's been a lot of great programs starting under the presidency of our first green president, President Barack Obama. There was a lot of excellent training programs that came out of the stimulus bill. And a lot of the programs were geared towards installation, which are vital jobs. But one of the things, as you see, is we're moving to, you mentioned this earlier, decarbonizing our power sector, decarbonizing our electric buildings, our building sector, and decarbonizing the transportation sector. There's a lot of opportunities, but I think we need to set the bar a little bit higher. And so some of the workforce development that we're trying to work towards is getting more people in jobs, like, for example, in asset management, project finance, legal, be able to start their own businesses. So I think if we can start to look at some of those opportunities, while not forgetting about, installation and entry-level jobs, which are vitally important, but we have the ability, I think, to walk and chew gum at the same time. And I think that'll change the dynamic in a lot of communities across the country.
All right. Well, I appreciate hearing your advice on that. I do have one other quick question for you, because I know that you've been working on this other thing, as somebody told me, at Volt Energy, which is environmental justice power purchase agreement. And I'm just wondering if you can expand a bit on what that is and how it's maybe helped to increase solar deployment and to bring down costs. Can you say a word about it?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that we looked at is rural communities and minority communities have similar plights. So if you look at rural communities, for example, coal workers have risked their lives to make sure that we've been afforded the benefit of having electricity for decades. And then inner cities, we talked about some of the challenges there before, but one of the things that I saw as an issue in our company it's really difficult to build utility scale solar projects in DC, in Baltimore, in Detroit, which I know you do very well, and other inner cities, just because of space limitations and things like that. So our environmental justice PPA is really simple. The concept is we're looking to build utility scale projects in rural areas, really trying to prioritize areas where coal power plants have been shut down to help people in a just transition to clean energy and provide economic benefits. But also we're taking a percentage of our revenue with our corporate clients and putting it into a community impact fund to make environmental justice investments in inner city communities. And just a few quick examples of what those look like. We're going to start this Clean Energy Business Academy that I mentioned before to address some of those higher skill opportunities. We're providing scholarships for students of color pursuing careers in clean energy. And then I'm proud to announce we signed our first environmental justice PPA with Microsoft to develop 250 megawatts. And they've been a wonderful partner, and they're fully committed to partnering with us to change both rural communities and diverse communities across the country.
Oh my God, we're going to clone you. You are amazing. That is so great that this is your life's work. We're very lucky that you're doing what you're doing, but also that you're willing to share a bit about it to inspire others, perhaps, to pick up the mantle and expand their own capabilities in this regard. Let me jump over to Frank. Now, Frank, I have that you're from Nevada. Is that right?
That's correct, Secretary Granholm.
And I heard that you don't mind talking about job creation, because I love talking about job creation and what the investments in clean energy can do for workers in all pockets of the country. And I want you to explain for us sort of the array of jobs and projects maybe that carpenters are already working on in the clean energy sector. What's the, what do the jobs look like? And maybe even what's the compensation look like for unionized carpenters who are working on those kind of opportunities?
Well, first, I want to make sure to say thank you for being here today. We certainly appreciate your leadership, and it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to my 60,000 members we have here within our union, and also thanks to the League of Conservation Voters for helping put this thing on. One thing that the trade of carpentry is adapted. We have 36 apprenticeable crafts recognized by the Department of Labor, so it's a very vast trade. It's the oldest trade. And, so taking the basic concepts and fundamentals of the work that we do, and people think of maybe framing a house all the way to building that high-rise construction to roads and bridges. It's now been adapted to clean water. It's been adapted to solar. It's been adapted to wind. We have a big sector of our members that work in the maybe coal-fired power plant industry. And of course, they get nervous when they see that there's a trend that these are going to go away. And they need to, you brought up earlier what we're facing with our climate challenges here. And so we've developed these training programs to adapt our carpenters to be able to get out there and work in the green energy, to where it's not a big scary word to say, in their world, they think they're going to lose their job. And for them to be able to see that they're going to come in here and they get to be part of really a revolution in energy means a lot to them. And to see the Biden administration taking such a strong tack of saying that they want to make sure that we have good paying jobs, Davis-Bacon jobs, prevailing wage, with a recognition of apprenticeship in there, also having a good, friendly Congress. I mean, I got to give a shout out to my friend Jackie Rosen, Senator Jackie Rosen from Nevada, who's been very helping me guide the way on this. But, the starting wage for somebody that comes out of high school is $20 an hour, roughly, and they get full family health care. They don't pay anything extra for it. And they start an apprenticeship program that as they get experience on the job, they also get formalized training and certifications, and they get increases each time they attend class, usually 4 times a year. And so the total package with fringes and wages comes out to about $70 an hour once they've completed a 4-year program. And it's a real career opportunity. It's not just a temporary job, it's a career, because they could even adapt what they learned on energy to getting back into maybe doing the remodel of one of our world famous casinos here in town.
There's a lot of construction work, I know, in Nevada on that. I'm curious, I mean, this administration is really, really eager to see sort of a whole pipeline, right, of jobs. And you've described the apprenticeships and potentially retraining. I mean, I've heard that you've actually taken on nearly every position that you can in the union. And you obviously have a perspective on the broad skills. I mean, carpenters have to do so many things, so a huge variety of things. The pre-career training programs that you guys are running in high schools, I'm assuming that's pre-apprentice, or is that what you include as apprentice?
No, it would be a pre-apprentice program. And we've instituted curriculum, and we're working in partnership with school districts, because let's face it, schools have had a rough time. The taxes get cut, the classes are no longer there. I had wood shop, metal shop, everything I had getting into the trade 37 years ago. But today we've had to adapt and change. So we've developed curriculum, partner with the schools. It's a 4-year program that they get practical experience and a lot of classroom time. And we work with the school districts to make sure they get the right teachers in place. And when they graduate from this program, which we call Career Connections, they have immediate, uninterrupted indenturement to our apprenticeship. So they come out of there with their OSHA training, they got their safety, they learn the basic concepts of it, they start understanding that it's a tough job. They know how to, they've already got those bugs worked out, and it's incredibly successful. And then we also work with community groups to try to bring in the best of the best. Of course, we're all competing for that best worker, but we work with maybe troubled youth, troubled teens. Maybe we work with the military, and we've developed these same type of pre-programs to getting them into the apprenticeship, and it's we love it.
Well, sometimes unions get a reputation for having been very I'll just say non-diverse, having been very white and male. And I understand that the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters has actually become more diverse in membership. And I wonder if you can say a word about that trend and how, maybe how the Biden administration can support growth in clean energy union jobs and in turn opportunities for women and people of color.
I really appreciate the question. I came to work here for the Carpenters 27 years ago, and we've been kind of a Neanderthal industry as the construction industry. And I come from 4 generations in my family that have done that were building contractors. And one of the things that we saw that the lack of diversity was dragging us down as an organization, and we were forcing people to compete by working for less money. And because of who knows why, the good old boy system that they had in place on here. So we've learned as an organization that opening up the trade to women and minorities wasn't just the right moral thing to do. It was profitable. It was good for business. We brought a new outlook, and you got fresh ideas, and we weren't turning our back on 50% of the workforce. And so, of course, like anything else, we're trying to recruit the best of the best. And so when we've done this, it reflects directly in our collective bargaining agreements. And so we've now been putting women into roles of responsibility and also leadership. They've earned it. So it wasn't like it's given to them. And working with minority groups has just been an awesome response. And I'm really proud of our numbers and the way that we've grown.
That is great. I'm super glad to hear it, and I think it's just got to happen. So I'm going to follow up with one last question, because I want to jump back, if I could, for a second to Alyssa, and I'm wondering if I can get your advice about what's one thing maybe this administration could do to help knock down barriers to clean energy access for maybe interior Alaskans and other communities that may not have a seat at the table, may find it difficult to be included.
Yeah, one thing, I would say the biggest thing is addressing the crisis that we're compounded by, for sure. We're in a climate crisis, we're in a land and treaty crisis, we're in a housing crisis, healthcare crisis, infrastructure and economic crisis. We're still very much so in a public health crisis with the COVID pandemic. And, people, especially, people who are marginalized in this in this country, especially, we are all in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, we can't invest, we can't build anything, because we're holding up what we have left. So when we address those crises, and when we give our communities an opportunity to not just survive, but to breathe and thrive and really start envisioning what the future looks like together, then we'll start seeing that investment, those barriers to being able to afford clean energy to begin with will start to crumble down, because we'll be able to save money. We'll be able to afford our houses and buy cars. And yeah, we could probably install some solar panels on our roof because we don't have to worry about living to paycheck anymore. That we don't have to worry about not having broadband so I can be on a Zoom call, you know what I mean? So really addressing those crises and letting those folks who are already on the front lines lead that movement and lead that charge, we'll start seeing that growth, the growth that we absolutely need to see.
Well, it's really interesting that you say that because, of course, the combined, I'm going to do a plug here for the President's Build Back Better agenda, because it is about reducing costs of just life for people, whether that's in making sure that every community in America has access to high-speed internet, or whether it's making sure that grandparents have cheaper access to prescription drugs, or can get hearing aids because Medicare has been expanded, or making sure that people who are raising children have their taxes lowered through this child tax credit that will lift, and that has been lifting 50% of kids out of poverty, or access to help with parents caring for them, or children if they have young family. I mean, all of that is contemplated. Removing those cost barriers so that people can breathe is really what the Biden administration would like to see happen in this overall Build Back Better agenda, in addition to the climate action that we are going to see as well, including that clean energy standard that will get us to 100% clean electricity by 2035. So I just want to thank you all so much. Tiernan, I think I'm going to toss this back to you, if I'm not mistaken, or somebody at LCV, but I want to thank you all in particular for watching, those of you who are streaming this, and to our guests here who are doing their part in making sure that we have a shared home that we can live on, that we address these massive climate impacts. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was absolutely incredible. Secretary Granholm, Alyssa, Gilbert, and Frank, thank you for your powerful words. Thank you for your incredible leadership. You all really are an inspiration. And I think, as we heard today from Secretary Granholm, President Biden, Vice President Harris, of course, Secretary Granholm, and other leaders across this administration have really laid out a bold vision for once-in-a-generation progress on climate and jobs and justice. And they've already done so much through executive action. And as we've heard from Alyssa and Gilbert and Frank, they and leaders like them across the country are having such a huge impact, and it could not be more necessary or more important. But now we absolutely need Congress to pass transformational legislation to make sure that no community is left behind, to make sure that we meet this moment on climate once and for all. And so we really need all of you to help make that happen. You can make a big difference right now. Please call your members of Congress and tell them that we must invest in climate, jobs, and justice at the scale that science and justice dictate, and that we need to pass a $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill. Again, the Senate took the first step in that with passing the resolution overnight, but now we need to keep it all moving. We're very happy that the House leadership has said they're going to come back and vote on it the week of August 23rd. But please do call your members of Congress today and ask them to support this budget resolution and then this budget reconciliation at the full amount. So the number for the Capital Switch line is 202-224-3121. So please go flood the phone lines. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a nice afternoon. Thank you and take care.